New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Divine Interventions. I am Michelle Wadleigh, and my partner is Catherine Duca. We are here to marry psychological understanding with spiritual sensibilities, helping you to see the world through a filter of love and acceptance. We are here to blend the profound realms of spirituality and psychology to bring you a unique approach to practical happiness. Because we know that in the midst of life's challenges and struggles, you can find peace, joy, and fulfillment by harnessing the divine within and the power of the mind. It is our intention that each show will be a journey into the heart of what it means to be happy in a distracted world, a world that can often seem to be upside down. We'll share practices, insights, and actionable strategies to create a sense of peace and calm in your life so you too can discover the joy that lives within. If you're ready to become the architect of your own life, join us weekly as we travel together to the place within where love resides. Greetings everyone. Welcome once again to Divine Interventions. My name is Michelle Wadleigh and my partner is
Catherine Duca. Good to be with you.
And we are happy to be here for you to marry together psychology and spirituality as where it complements and where they sometimes differ, but to bring solutions and tools and possibilities to you so that you can live in a world that you filter through the idea of love and acceptance. Because what we want for you, our listeners, is we want you to be happy. And whatever that looks like for you. So we're happy to be here tonight. And tonight we're having a conversation, or maybe we should wait till next week, Cathy.
I think we probably should put it on. Let's put it on.
Tonight we're talking about procrastination. And it's something I'm sure that some of our listeners can relate to. I know I hear people identify themselves all the time as procrastinators. And I'm sure you run into this also.
I do. And to tell you the truth, I'm sometimes in that category myself, you know. I was telling you right before we came on, we took down our Christmas tree today. So, yes, we like the lights and we wanted to, keep things cheery, but there was a little bit of delay. So, yeah, I think it hits many of us.
And I think, it's funny. And I think one of the things I think is going to come out tonight. And by the way, if you're watching us live, I'm not home and I don't have all the light that I normally have. So if you think I look a little off and looking a little purple, you're right. It happens to be the coloring of the room that I can't do anything about. So we're traveling down to the CSL convention tomorrow to meet up with a whole bunch of colleagues. Very excited.
Nice.
But the thing about the thing about procrastination for me is it started getting my attention a number of years ago, because while people were trying to take responsibility by saying, well, I procrastinate, I'm a procrastinator, what I actually also noticed with that is that once someone decides they're a procrastinator, it kind of stops the action. If you know what I mean, it stops the action of what they do. And what I found in my work with individuals is to ask the reason, to ask the next question. why? Why are you procrastinating? And when you start asking why, I found out, and these individuals through their inquiry found out there were reasons. There were reasons people procrastinate. Some
Yes.
are good reasons, some are very bad. I mean, not viable reasons. But when you look at that, you can stop calling yourself a procrastinator and realize that some part of your mind is run interference for you.
Yeah.
What do you think about that part?
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. And, that gets into the thing of labeling. Labeling kind of cuts two ways, right? If you label yourself a procrastinator, then you kind of subconsciously, right, give yourself permission
Right.
to stay in that behavior pattern. But your larger point, I think, is the more important, which is there are drivers that lead one to procrastinate. And I found in my work that if you can identify what your particular driver or drivers are, then you have more to work with yourself, right? And so, doing some research on this in the past, I found that not all procrastinators are created equal, if you will. There, we procrastinate for different reasons, as you said before, and um, I'm excited to get into what the different types of procrastinations or different types of procrastinators actually are.
And the one thing that I think you and I both agree on, and I know that's in our notes, is that procrastination is not about being lazy.
Oh,
It's not about being lazy. So, for those of you who might mislabel yourself as being lazy, you really want to stop doing that. You want to stop doing that to yourself because you're not.
it's so true. I almost don't think. I mean, I have to think about this all the way through, but I almost question whether there's any such thing as laziness. I mean, behavior can read as lazy on the
Yeah.
surface of things, and you could throw the term around, "Oh, you're such a lazy person," but really, when you scratch the surface, there are there are specific reasons why
Same thing as
we don't.
procrastination, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
exactly, exactly.
Um, and it's funny, I am a classic introvert. And last week, I went to see the movie Origins with some of the people from my spiritual community. For those of you who don't know the movie, just look it up. Origins, very powerful movie. And but here, I said I was going. I was excited about going. I was talking about going, and then the day of, I wanted to back out. So someone who didn't know could think about that as a procrastination, but I happen to know it's a classic behavior of an
Of
introvert
an
that
introvert.
makes plans and then wants to go, no, I don't want to go out.
Yes,
And
yes.
I do it even with people I like, and I do love those people, but I do it with people that I really love. Like, "Oh, I don't really want to go, but that's not procrastination.
No,
It has to do with comfort zone, which
right,
is
right.
so. I guess one of the questions we could ask do you, to our listeners: do you procrastinate because you're saving yourself from some experience? Like, what's behind that? And
Mhm.
once you bring out your distinctions, Kathy.
Yeah. And, I think we could probably talk a little bit more about the difference between being introverted and being extroverted. Why don't we do that as kind of a backdrop to this, right? Because you say you're an introvert. Now, I have observed you many times in front of an audience and in front of your congregation. You would be the last person one might describe as introvert. But that's because we tend to think mistakenly that introverts are shy. Introverts are not necessarily shy. It's a matter of what charges your battery. And introverts kind of use up, and I'm an introvert as well, Although when I get to the party or the gathering that I usually kick and scream to go, I'll do anything to get out of it. I mean, that's my pattern. And when I go, I have a great time usually, and I'm the last one to leave. The restaurant is putting the chairs up on the table, and I didn't want to go, even with people I love and to places that I enjoy. Why? Because the output, the interacting can drain my battery. So introverts need to come home and be kind of with themselves to recharge.
Because if you notice me after you see me in a public event, right? You see me afterwards.
What
I
happens?
don't rush into the crowd. I sit back, I'm quiet, and I'll talk to anyone who approaches me. I'm not shy and I'm not unfriendly, but I don't have an easy time energetically. It's intimidating to me to walk up and try to do small talk or to try to be into a large gathering.
It's
So when I'm doing my job, I mean, I could talk in front of thousands, no issue. But then I want to sit down and go into the corner.
And extroverts, interestingly, they recharge their battery by engaging with people. So the introvert needs to recharge by coming home and putting on sweats and being by themselves. The extrovert is the opposite. Now, usually these people marry each other. I mean, and then life is interesting. But so by way of backdrop, I think this is an interesting way to begin. Yeah. But I came across actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different types of procrastinators. Let me run down the list, and then we can backtrack and elaborate if our listeners would like us to do that. There's the perfectionist, the dreamer, the worrier.
Worrier. Worrier.
Worry. The worrier, the defier. That's an interesting one.
Not going to tell me what to do kind of thing?
You're not going to tell me what to do. Exactly. Even if I'm the one that's telling myself what to do, because I have to meet the deadline, I don't like anybody, including my own brain, telling me what to do. Defier. Yeah. The crisis maker and the overdoer.
How do you think how does that fit in? The overdoer, because an overdoer just the name of it itself makes it sound like it's someone who's willing to be in action, and they're in action.
Listen, yeah, right. But an overdoer can be busy doing the wrong tasks, meaning very busy doing things that are tangential to the task.
I know that one. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. So you're very busy, but you might not be doing the thing that you need to do to meet your goal or keep your commitment or whatever the case is. But just to backtrack a little bit and go down the list. So the perfectionist, of course, is the person who delays doing the job or the task until they have all the information they need, all the resources, until they have done what they believe is the perfect job. And they either don't start until they have everything lined up. And when I mean everything, I mean everything. Or they start, but they can't complete it because they don't have everything they need. There's always one more, if you're writing a paper, there's always one more reference. If you're painting, if you're painting something, this could be a little better. The color could be better. The shape could be better. There's always one more thing. And the goalpost keeps moving further and further.
And what they say now about people who are going into their own business and such is that done is the enemy of, or perfect is the enemy of done. So that kind of fits in there too, and I've never had a problem with things being perfect. I'm laughing at myself. I don't really like it, but I'm a mistake maker. And I had to claim that. That was a part of my shadow. I had to claim that. In fact, I blogged about it a while ago. I'm a mistake maker. I do. I make mistakes. I make mistakes. I make typos and I send things out and I think they're right and then I go, "Oh, man." But I I am someone who needs to be. I need to be in action because that hesitation drives me crazy a little bit.
Well, and when I say that, and of course the cliche, opposites attract, you and I, as we have embarked on this project, we've bumped up against, because I fall into this category. Even though I tell myself, oh, Cathy, look at what you're doing, and don't let perfect be the enemy of good or the enemy of done. I know that, but I think for me, my background, my Catholic school training was, you can't hand this in until and unless it's perfect. Otherwise there's going to be a consequence. So I have to work really hard to try to undo that bit of my mindset. So that's the perfectionist. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, you're still going down the list. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then there's the dreamer. The dreamer is a very creative person, has lots of good ideas, but has a little bit of trouble executing the mechanics to make their big ideas and their dreams come to fruition. Some people say maybe there's a discipline thing. They lack the discipline. I don't know if that's wholly accurate. We know there are idea people and there are detail people. But I think when it comes to procrastination, dreamers live in the creative zone, and the operationalizing of their dreams does not come easily or naturally. What do you think about that?
Um, what do I think about that?
Oh, you just look like you were pondering.
No, I'm taking it in because there's trying to be present to the whole thing. Because a dreamer isn't somebody I would have originally thought of as adding to that list. So I'm really listening to you. But yeah, I guess maybe because I'm not a procrastinator, because to me, I don't even want to let myself dream unless I can do it. Which is, if I can't get an idea off the ground, I back out and I look for another idea. Because I do have I have an attachment to accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be the best or but yeah, that so when you said that, that's why I was listening. I'm like, oh, fascinating. It was just, you surprised me that was part of that list.
Yeah, and as I go through the list, I think our listeners may notice that they maybe are a couple of, they have traits that fall into a couple of these categories. Usually we're dominant in one, left-handed, right-handed.
Right.
Okay, so that's the dreamer. The worrier. The worrier may avoid starting important tasks or critical tasks because they believe they won't be able to complete it successfully. So there's some anxiety there. And of course, there's judgment, or there's the fear of judgment
That's what I
and
was just going to say.
self-judgment.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-judgment, doubt, fear. See, that's why if I could just tie it together a little, make it even just a little bit more obvious. If you call it procrastination, then you might not look further. But even with this conversation that Cathy and I are having right now, the moment you realize that you might not be moving ahead because there's a fear, and to look at that fear becomes valuable. There is a value in understanding what am I fearing? Where am I doubting myself? Because now you have it, and it's not actually secondary. It's the first cause, But because you weren't given this like option or the introduced this idea to look at it this way, you might not have. But the fact is, if you're procrastinating, if you're dreaming and you're not moving, it is probably because you have self-doubt. If you're worrying instead of moving, it is because you're concerned you're concerned about an unpredictable outcome. Yeah, and
Right.
so if you see there's a pattern there of fear, there's fear, and then that we are entertaining, we don't always know what that we're entertaining it, but then what happens is we hide it behind the word procrastination. And
Absolutely.
that's why I said I'm always concerned when someone just calls it procrastination, because then they don't look further, you know.
Right, right. I love in my work and in my own life when I can identify something as a fear, because fear is it's a dynamic phenomenon. It's not written in stone. Fear is a reaction. It's not DNA. It's not blue eyes. Fear is a reaction. It's a belief, right? Oh, if I complete the task and I write the book, let's say, and then the book is out there, well, what can happen? The upside, people will love it. Downside, I might be criticized. And if I have some experience, negative, hurtful, painful, embarrassing experience around criticism, around perhaps having been criticized earlier in life, then I might get all knotted up around the possibility of being criticized again. And I may have made the promise to myself way back when I was criticized, I'm never letting this happen again. I'm never letting this happen again. So I'm not going to step out.
But even there, one is protecting. See,
Self-protection.
yeah, by the time we leave here tonight, my desire, and I'm going to get to Dawn's comment in a moment. Um, what I'd like to make sure at the end of the night that we leave our audience with is that the very label, the label of procrastination, but then judging it as bad, is a double whammy.
Double.
It's a double whammy that you don't want to do. Because if now this goes to a very global spiritual metaphysical concept. If it's in your life, it's for your life. If it's in your life, it's for your life. There's something there. There's something to be learned. There's something to be gleaned. Even when you think you're a procrastinator, even there, when you decide to unpack it, and maybe after tonight, after listening, maybe some people will unpack what they have called their procrastination a little bit more. So right there, somewhere, there's some kind of gift, some kind of growth, some kind of something to expand you. And so I just want to make sure that even though we're not quite at that point in the show, that in case someone doesn't listen, it's call it good. Call it good, because when we label it good, we'll find something good, you know.
And if you can't call it good, how about calling it purposeful?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
There's a message in there. If only we can lean into it and be curious about what that is.
Yes, and I'm reading. I'm having Dawn, but used a word in there. I'm like, I'm trying to pronounce the damn word. Maladaptively. So
Let's see
I
what I recall.
assume what that means is adapting poorly. I'll have to break that down. That's what I assume that means.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think what Dawn means is, or I'm going to guess, that many of the ways in which we tried to solve problems earlier in life were adaptive. If I got yelled at in school when I was younger, well, let me tell a true story, if I may. So I developed a stutter in the primary grades. I think I was in the maybe second or third grade. And there was a spelling bee, and I had to pronounce the word and then use it in a sentence and pronounce it again. And all of a sudden, never happened before, I couldn't get the word out. Yeah. You know, the word was queer. I don't know if that means anything, but that was the word. And the use in the sentence was, the man wore a queer hat, meaning an odd hat. I couldn't pronounce the word. It got caught in my throat. So I got a 0 for the day, and the whole class got a 0. And we all had to write the word in a sentence, like, I don't know.
Who would do that?
Several hundred times. Oh, yeah.
Who would do that?
Yeah. So I think early on, on some level, I made a promise to myself: don't stand out. Don't stand out, because something could happen. I could stutter again. And then, I'll get a 0, and I'll be responsible for other people getting punished as well. So, my unconscious kept me, at an earlier point in my life, in my 20s and 30s, kept me kind of in a hidden position. There were things I wanted to do, but why can't I do them? I don't know why. I'm excited about them, but why can't I do them? Well, a little bit of perfectionism, it won't quite be right, a little bit of worrying. But really, if I stick my neck out and come to the front of the room, it could be bad for me. And so the unconscious, and this is the fascinating thing, would do anything to keep us protected, even make us miserable. Better to be secure, better to be safe.
Like when someone gets all of a sudden sick, all of a sudden a headache, all of a sudden they don't feel well. And that, again, is our ego, in my opinion. That is the ego, when it's a metaphysical translation or idea, really. When we don't consciously choose to say no. You see, I think sometimes we forget that we can say no. We can even say, I don't want to do something. I don't want to do that project. But instead, we don't know that we have the personal power. So we don't say no. And then we're obligated to something we don't even want to do. Right?
And so if we can't find our no, as you're saying, the unconscious will find a no for us, and it's called the flu, right? Or it's called a migraine sometimes. Yes. There's my out. There's my out. So that symptom is the middleman, if you will, and it is that is saying no. But if we find the words, then we are in our power. No, I choose not to.
Choose not to. And that was one of the main notes I hear. You can choose to not do something. You can, you can, even if you decide to do something, you can choose not to again. You actually have the power to do that. But Cathy, let's take a quick commercial break here and do some support for New Thought Media Network. Take it away, Reverend Michael.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Divine Interventions. I am Michelle Wadleigh, and my partner is Cathy Duca. We are here to marry psychological understanding with spiritual sensibilities, helping you to see the world through a filter of love and acceptance. We are here to blend the profound realms of spirituality and psychology to bring you a unique approach to practical happiness. Because we know that in the midst of life's challenges and struggles, you can find peace, joy, and fulfillment by harnessing the divine within and the power of the mind. It is our intention that each show will be a journey into the heart of what it means to be happy in a distracted world, a world that can often seem to be upside down. We'll share practices, insights, and actionable strategies to create a sense of peace and calm in your life so you too can discover the joy that lives within. If you're ready to become the architect of your own life, join us weekly as we travel together to the place within where love resides. Procrastinate with the conversation. We will get right back to it.
Yes.
So
I have a couple more if we're.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So let's see, where did we live? So another one, which I touched on a moment ago, is the defier. No one's going to tell me what to do. And this group of procrastinators tend to avoid unpleasant tasks. And, at times they might forget that those tasks will catch up to them and they'll have to do them anyway. But it's the idea that no one is going to tell me what to do. And this is where, a client might come in and say, I don't know why, but I self-sabotage. I get just so far. And when I'm on the verge of completing a project, somehow I lose interest, or I get distracted, or something takes my attention away and I don't do it. And it can be a combination of no one's going to tell me what to do. And I'm afraid that if I put myself out again, I open myself up to criticism. That seems to be a common thread in some of these. Two more. The crisis maker, the person who delays, but that 11th hour of pressure and the adrenaline that comes with it, that's what moves the needle for that person.
You can't see my hand. I'm waving my hand.
You're waving your hand. Yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. We like to say, well, I usually say, I don't try not to say anymore, I function best under pressure.
Yeah.
But I don't like that anymore. The older I get, the more.
Is that changing for you?
Oh yeah, completely changing for me. But I was that way forever.
I was too, but it's kind of losing its appeal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess I love that adrenaline. I love the importance. I felt like, oh, this is so important. And by extension, I guess I'm so important. I get to rush and I get to, you know, um, interesting. I'm just thinking of this now. That's when I am most able to ask for help. Oh, you know what? I'm having a little bit of an epiphany right now. That's something I never connected until right now. May I share?
Yeah, we
It's
want to
just,
hear your epiphany,
it's
please.
just going on right now. So when I was in the elementary school that I talk about once in a while, I would leave things to the last minute because if they weren't done well, I'd get punished. And my mother, who my parents had their own business, and my mother was very, very busy, and I thought at times, a little too busy to help me with my homework. But for some reason, when I was up against a deadline, that's when she would lend me her time and her attention, and she would help me in the 11th hour. And it wasn't until this moment that I realized I think I subconsciously engineer that, because when I'm in a time crunch, it's okay to ask for help. Isn't that interesting? Oh, breakthrough, breakthrough. Okay. All right. That's interesting. And the last one, well, is the overdoer, the person who may um, take on too much, get overextended, and then perhaps have trouble prioritizing. And so then things slide and they can't quite wrap their arms around what they have to do. So,
Well, I know having to get something done is the perfect time to have to clean out the cabinet
oh,
under the sink in the bathroom.
you too? You too? You too?
Wait a minute, I got a project. Wait. Let me reorganize my bathroom or
Oh, yeah.
my pantry, or get all the laundry done. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think of that as procrastination, but I don't know what I've thought of it as, but the one thing, and tying together to your epiphany, is that one solution you can do to our listeners: find an accountability partner. Identify someone that you are willing, consciously choose to answer to. So, because if it's a conscious choice, then you won't feel put upon. But some, like Kathy and I, we have this, we're equally invested, and so there's an accountability that happens between the two of us. And because I don't want to disappoint her, right? And
And I
probably
you?
a little
Yes,
bit
of
the
course.
same way. So you find someone that you feel good that can partner with you and help you to stay on your timeline, to stay on the timeline, if it is a timeline that you're talking about.
Because if left to our own unconscious, we will probably, you know, stay embroiled in whatever reasons we have. But to your earlier point, Michelle, leaning into the reason behind, go under the label of procrastination, peel that back a bit and say, could I be afraid of something? And if so, what am I afraid of? If I complete this task, what is the downside?
Yeah, and take that a little bit further. What if you don't do it? Because I don't know. I know a lot of people. I've met a lot of people in my life. I mean, unless you're a surgeon and you have to complete the surgery, and there are, yes, there are other instances where there are timelines and such, but there's sometimes we're experiencing all this, and I think it's good to say, do I really even have to do this?
True.
Does it matter? Like, let we develop opportunities to beat ourselves up all too often.
Yeah.
We find opportunities to criticize ourselves, to judge ourselves as wrong. And where you might be thinking you're procrastinator, you probably do label yourself in that way, or you label yourself as lazy. And none of those things are so. They're just not so.
And then the cumulative guilt and bad feeling, negative feeling, that judgmental feeling that we have about ourselves after, that bad taste. And then that always comes with, or often comes with, a promise: next time I'm going to be right on it. I'm not going to do this again. I'm not going to repeat this, only to find out I'm doing it again. Right? And there's nothing more demoralizing than being in a situation, a problematic situation, and you say, not only am I here, but I'm here again for the 100th millionth time. Right? But the place to take that is to look deeper, and then challenge. And with things, projects, I appreciate what you said there, that seem urgent, or you have to say yes because, oh, then if you're a people pleaser, let's weave that in, right? We talked about that a couple of episodes ago. If you're a people pleaser, you're not going to want to say no.
And it's funny because, just coming out of the pulpit for 22 years, there were times that I thought certain things were absolutely critically important. And as the years went on and I became more mature, I would ask myself sometimes, would anyone notice if I didn't even do such and such, whatever the thing is? Or even if it was, other people at the center and we had collectively agreed and we said that something was important. It's because when something is important, it has a result, it has an impact. But I often saw a pattern of us labeling things as important that were not having an impact. So finally, I learned to ask, is this even necessary? Is this even necessary? Will anybody miss it? And there were things over the years that we literally stopped doing. And no one noticed.
No one noticed. It was
No
okay.
one noticed. Yeah. And yet behind in back of our minds, we're like, we got to get it done. We got to get it done. Let's have the meeting. Because when things matter, they have impact. They have impact. There's a result. There's an ROI. There's a feeling. There's a need there's a room to celebrate the finished product. But if you're not called to any of those things, it's very likely you're invested in doing something that's the busy work, which is the doer, right? Being the doer.
Yeah.
Just doing to do.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So being willing to revisit and reevaluate. Hey, 2 weeks ago, I thought this was really critical. Is it really critical? And I think there's even one step beyond that, which is, let's say you're juggling priorities, right? And everything seems important. Well, if you simply can't manage everything, that's an opportunity to give yourself a little grace, isn't it? Because, and it's not about reneging on responsibilities. It's not about casually undoing your commitments, because I think you and I both agree one's word is important and we want to be impeccable with our word, right? But I think sometimes we can find ourselves in situations where, okay, I can do that task, but wow, there's going to be a big cost. There's going to be a big price to pay, perhaps to my mental health or my physical health, or, some detrimental consequence. And so none of these things is hard and fast, black or white. But I think if the energetic tone could be one of greater ease and flexibility with oneself, then rather than look at commitments as things written in stone, you're like, oh wow, if this is a pattern where I either overextend or I'm so worried, let me check in with myself. Is this as critical as I'm making it to be? And maybe it is, but maybe it isn't.
Of energy in our lives. Does this add energy to me or does it take it away?
Right.
Because if I'm not energetically fueled by this thing that I think is important, it's probably not important. It might be that I adopted it because I am trying to be a people pleaser or because someone else, I bought into someone else's idea. But and one of the things there is, if you and I didn't say this before, but when you tune into your body, when you use your body as a barometer, your body will often tell you if you've learned how to listen to it. You got to learn how to listen to the body and then translate what it's saying.
That's right.
And then your body will tell you. My friend, I have a friend who says if it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
And so I know that even when I started my center, 22 years ago, and I knew I had my third son, he was young. I already knew my other sons were older. I already knew how fast they grow. And I wasn't going to miss him because I was opening up the church. I was not going to do that. So my priority was me being with him when those moments were important. If it was a lacrosse game or his other sports or whatever it was. And so I scheduled everything around it. It was known. I was at peace with that. I was so committed to him and the way that I wanted to serve him. Everyone else knew the priority, and no one was going to question it because there was no room. I didn't leave any room to question that. And so if I put something else off, I wasn't putting it off because I was putting it off. I was putting it off because I individual um had this individual that I was committed to that was much more important than me getting something done. Because for him it was going to be a lifetime. That
Yeah.
was going to be a lifetime decision.
Yes. Yes. And I think this also takes in the thread of it's up to each of us to create the life we want. And yes, of course, we all have to do some things that we don't care to do, and discipline is I think a worthy trait. But at the same, or not but, and at the same time, we want to be mindful of the price we pay. We don't want to be at the mercy of shoulds. I should do this. I have to do this. I ought to do this automatically, right? In fact, I think you'll agree with this, Michelle. Being on autopilot really is not the way to go when the alternative is to be mindful and to really think through the end game. What are we really creating here? Right?
So what let's leave let's I mean we might be reiterating. We're about to run out of time. Let's reiterate the things that we believe that would support our listeners tonight. And for me, one of the things is to learn to read the body, right? It is possibly, if something does matter, get an accountability partner. What say you?
Well, I think those are the two big ones. And I just want to emphasize that the body knows before the brain has a chance to, identify you. So if you're feeling tight or if you're feeling stressed, that's a road, that's a marker. Look at that and ask yourself, what's really making me tense, and what is my motivation here? So, all right, I think we elaborated on that. Um, I would say in the day to day, the timer is your friend. If you're someone who has trouble staying on task and you're wiggly and you get antsy and you're dying to clean out that junk drawer when you should be writing your, I don't know, your blog or something, that's when you set the timer, do it for 10 or 15 minutes, make yourself stop no matter what, take a break, reward yourself, a little reward.
Yes. Yes.
Like a delicious cup of tea or a walk or look out the window or look at the sunset or whatever, turn on some music, things that don't have to cost you anything. but it's a way of approaching your resistance in a more mindful, more flexible, more self-honoring way, rather than push through at all costs, push. Better to allow. Set your atmosphere, right? And allow.
So for any reason, anytime, anyway. I mean, it's just so important. But especially instead of judging the fact that you haven't moved the needle on a project, this is when you stop and you do inquiry. Gee, what is it about this? What am I feeling about this? Why am I avoiding moving the needle? What is that? And use it to your advantage to grow your self awareness and your comfort with who you are, for sure. For sure.
Yes, yes. This really comes down, as do most of the things we've spoken about so far, to our relationship with ourselves. Being kinder, being more compassionate, being curious, and giving ourselves the room to explain to ourselves what's really going on. And if you don't know from here, the body's always talking. So learn to interpret.
Because if you don't listen to your body, the end result is stress that winds up as illness or disease. You know, God, all right. We'll talk another day about the book, some of the books that I'm reading now that just supports everything that we talk about, everything that we talk about. So, do you have anything left hot that you want to deliver?
You know, um, I think, so many of the answers are multi-level and multi-pronged approaches, and I look at it as a tapestry. You know, weave in these things, weave in the mindfulness, weave in the self-kindness, weave in the curiosity of what's frightening me, or what is my resistance about, and talk to somebody. Talk to somebody about it, because again, when we're in our own echo chambers, I know when I'm just in my head, it's the same old thoughts. But when I talk to you, when I talk to other people, um, I put words to it, well, first of all, I can hear myself more clearly, and I can get your feedback, and I don't feel so alone with whatever's going on. So that's what I would say this week. Watch the places where you don't ask, to our listeners. If you have a little bit of a hard time asking for help, just kind of observe yourself and notice when you get a little tight inside, and say, is there someone I could talk to? Is there someone I could ask for help? Is there someone I could say, hey, listen, you don't have to fix anything. I just need to hear myself talk to someone. Can I have your ear for a bit? It's that's usually at the ready. So that's what I would say this week.
Please, and we'll be back here next week. But love on yourself.
Love on yourself.
Love on yourself. Pour more and more and more. You deserve it. You deserve it. So we are signing off for this week. We'll see you next week. We are so glad you were here, and massive love to you. And for those of you who are going to be in South Carolina, in Charleston, South Carolina, for the CSL convention, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
That's great.
Good night, Cathy. Thank you. Good night, listeners.
Good night,
We'll
Michelle.
talk soon. Bye.
Good night, everyone.